the meeting to order at 4:31 today. We are doing remote attendance pursuant to the state executive orders listed in the agenda. So I will request a move. Well, can we move on the agenda? I'm sorry.
You can't take any actions. So
Yeah.
You can have discussion, but you can't take any actions.
Okay. So, I mean, the basic reason why we're here is to discuss, and ideally if Greg was here, then we would take action to, do anything that we discuss. But whether we're going to continue library services and at what extent, just due to the increased COVID rates at this point.
My feeling is that the hospitals are starting to become overwhelmed here, and the numbers are super high, and we're in the 11%, and that we may want to consider scaling back some of our services so as to protect our staff and even our patrons. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, is I feel like we're getting to a way worse point in our city than we were when we closed last time.
Right. We closed before the governor's mandate last time as well. So Rick had sent out a service level option.
You do now have a quorum.
I do see that. Hi, Susan. Hi, Carl. I didn't say hi to you either. So we have, we've started the meeting, but we have not acted on anything because we needed 5 people to join. So Susan's our 5th. So now we'll kind of go back and I will take a motion on the agenda.
I'll make a motion for the agenda.
Second.
All right. So I have to do roll call. So Sophia?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Susan? I know you're on mute.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Rick, are there any public comments?
No.
Okay. So Susan, you just got here, but we're talking about what we want to do for the library service levels now that the rates have just skyrocketed in the Macon County area. So Sophia had mentioned that the hospitals are becoming overwhelmed. And so if we're going to take action to do anything different than what we are currently doing, which we feel like we're being safe, but are we going to take even more action?
I would like to support what Sophia said. The numbers, not only are the numbers bad, but the trend line is very alarming. And I think a reconsideration of what we're doing makes a whole lot of sense. And I'm glad you called this meeting.
So the yellow on what you're sharing, Rick, is that what we're doing currently?
Current levels, and I thought it might be easier. I thought of a couple more since I sent this out, but I thought it might be easier to go, service or resource or procedure by service, and just kind of talk about where we are and where we could be, and if everybody thinks that is a good idea.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
So Stacks access right now, we have full access. You can go browse anywhere you want. So we could limit access. I think given the layout of our building, that would have challenges, but it's not impossible. Actually, we could go to absolutely no access to the stacks. Programs right now, and yeah, the yellow is what we're currently doing. Programs, the most restrictive would be virtual only, which is what we did for several months. Right now, we limit the number of attendees, strictly limit that, and enforce social distancing and masks, etc. But we're still having very few. We're doing mostly virtual. Least restrictive would be normal program protocols. Meetings. So the most restrictive would be virtual only. We could do limited number of attendees. That's what we're doing now. The Friends board is choosing to do a hybrid version where some people attend through Zoom, some people attend in person. I attend those meetings. We ensure that social distancing and masking protocols are observed. Least restrictive would be normal meetings completely. Number of public access computers available. So the most restrictive would be no access, which we did for months. Right now we're doing a limited number of computers. So we've got 20 some odd computers, and we now are allowing access to 10 of them at a time. Least restrictive would be full access. Anytime anybody wants to jump in for some discussion or questions, please don't hesitate. The time spent on those public access computers. Most restrictive is no access. Moderately restrictive, right now we're up to 2 hours. And I think least restrictive is, haven't we been on 3 hours? Melissa's shaking her head yes. So curbside, and this is a little bit counterintuitive, but it's the way I set it up. So curbside, the most restrictive would be no access. Right now we're doing limited days and hours, but we could bump that up, make it available much more frequently. Curbside requests. How do you make the request? We could say no curbside at all. Right now it's self-serve online, either with our app or through our online public access catalog. Least restrictive would be, we'll do all that, plus we'll assist you by phone. If you want to call in and say, hey, can you look this up and order it for me and pull it for curbside, we could do that. So the number of patrons in the library. Most restrictive is no access, which we did for months. Moderately restrictive would be any amount determined that's under the state guidelines. The state guidelines are very generous is the only word I can think of. I'm not sure it's the right one, but for our size, it's about 300 patrons. It's like 312, if I remember correctly. We will never approach that during the pandemic. Okay, that's just not going to happen. The only time, really, even under normal circumstances that we approach that is if we have some sort of big program like a ridiculous program or some other large program. Then sometimes we exceed that, but it's very rare. So seating, most restrictive would be, if we're open, would be no seating at all. And we did that for a while after we reopened. Right now we are at a chair at every table downstairs. That's the intent anyway. Chairs get moved. And sometimes people sit together. The least restrictive would be put all the chairs back out. Local history, most restrictive is closed. Right now we're doing no more than 5 patrons. We could go to no limits. I don't think we've reached that 5 patron number yet. Online catalog stations, places where you can look up your books. It's a self-service thing. Most restrictive is closed. Moderately restrictive is about 8 available, what we have now upstairs and downstairs. Least restrictive is all stations open. So hours, closed. Limited hours, which we did for a while. Regular hours, which we're at now. Days, same kind of deal. Now we're back on our normal days. Staffing, most or all staff working from home. It's what we did for quite a while. We allowed no more than, what was it, 6 in the building for a long time? We moderately restrictive is we could go to alternating teams and emphasize work from home, stress that. Right now we're at regular staffing patterns for the most part. I think some departments have made some adjustments. This is one that, it's kind of big. Enforcement of the social distancing and wearing of mask protocols. The most restrictive is nobody gets in the building unless you're following those protocols. Nobody gets to stay in the building unless you're following those protocols. to least restrictive is that we don't enforce it at all, or what we're doing right now, which is a sort of soft enforcement. We offer masks to people. We try to gently persuade, but that, that comes with its own problems. I thought of a couple other things, sanitizing protocols and self-checks. Most of the sanitizing protocols are handled by Civic Center staff. A couple of times a day, Jim comes around and cleans my door handle, and there's some other things they do on a regular basis. But I was thinking most specifically of public access computers here. Right now, it's a self-serve thing. There's a built-in incentive to clean it before you start using it. And then self-checks. For a while, we weren't using the self-checks at all. Now we're doing it with, again, we provide the sanitary lens cleaning wipes if anybody wants to use them. So that's where we are and where we could be in a nutshell. And I thought, I hope this would make your decision making a little bit easier.
So I guess my first, are people feeling more like people as in the board? Are you feeling more like we should completely close to the public? I believe that's Sophia's suggestion. Is that right? Or
I would like to close the building to the public, but
Right.
still have
services.
And I'd like, telephone plus online plus the app. And we talked about possibly making an appointment for the computers, but to me, I feel like if the public is not going to be strict about wearing masks and social distancing, I don't think it should be on the library staff to risk their own health because the public is not behaving. And I don't, things are crazy right now. And there's a lot, I don't know, how does the staff feel?
Well, I think it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, if you're talking about the enforcement of the masks and social distancing, I think there's a wide variety of opinion. I think that some staff would be very uncomfortable doing that. Others would be more so. But as far as,
I guess I meant as far as people in the building, besides library staff.
my opinion is that it doesn't matter. I mean, what they could all feel that everything's great, and if it's not, that's what we need to act on. They could feel that we're putting everybody at risk, and I think we have to. I think we have to act on whatever the facts are. I mean, that sounds a lot worse than I mean it. I care about how they feel, but I'm not sure that should be the decision making.
No, I agree. I understand where you're coming from.
Amy?
Yeah. Does
So,
anybody,
and on the facts, and I'm sorry whether Samantha said it or Sophia said it. Can someone summarize the fact that the numbers now are worse than the numbers? One of you said the numbers now are worse than the numbers when we actually closed.
that's what I was going to ask.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it was the day we closed was March 17, or the day we decided to close was March 16. We decided we'd close as of March 17. There were 12 new cases in Illinois that day, and
In
about
Macon County.
No, in Illinois. There
Oh, in
weren't any in
Illinois.
Macon County.
yeah, Macon County didn't reach 12 cases in a day until well into this thing.
That's true. Yeah.
And there were about 32 cases all time in the state of Illinois at that time. And the idea was to get in front of it and help flatten the curve. And you know that everybody else is doing that. You know, all the other entities are doing that. But if I can share a screen again, something that Amy just sent.
Hot off the press.
Yeah, new COVID cases. This is for the whole state. This isn't for Macon County. New COVID cases up 151% since October 1. 73,000 tests a day. Positivity rate up 3.4%. Hospitalizations up 73%. ICU up 61%. Without, I mean, that can be misleading without knowing the base, but you can see it's not, you know, it's, this is earlier in the year. We're approaching those earlier in the year numbers. Ventilators up 63% and deaths up 82%.
Well, and Sophia said that our hospitals, which of course are the hospitals we care most about, are being stressed slash.
Both our hospitals are full.
Oh,
I don't know why they're not telling the public that, but they are both full.
oh,
There are no beds.
oh my God. Okay.
So I guess, so if we're on the same page as far as we would be closing to the public, what kind of services are we going to provide?
And
The question.
this is a decision of the board, but I did invite the division heads today to, in case you had questions that were departmental specific, or in case any of them wished to weigh in. And I see we also have a couple of staff. Well, Betty Jo comes to most of them, but Lisa Tokars is a long time. I think, can't remember who our senior staff member is now. Is it Lisa or Robert? She's one of our senior staff members. So she's been with us a long time. So she's here, and she may wish to weigh in too. But that's up to the board, Samantha, if you want that to.
Honestly, I think we would all welcome your guys' opinion.
I agree.
So if you have comments, feel free. Take the mic.
No, my question was going to be, how does it look like compared to how we closed before? And, you know, I definitely would like to see some services still available, but, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, also, yeah, I mean, this is horrible.
I think we know enough about the disease, and the building is huge, that if the staff is willing to work on it, I think we could keep the staff in the building for now and keep services going. I mean, that's, I don't know. Realistically, like, how would that be something that the department heads would welcome, or how do you feel?
I do have something, a comment I want to make at some point, so help me remember that.
What?
No, like a magic trick right now.
He's like over here.
You're appearing again.
Your arm is gone. Bye.
Well, I'll just say it. There's another difference between this and March 16th, and that was in March 16, everybody was having this discussion. Many libraries had already closed. I know of no libraries that have closed, that are closed right now, and maybe there's still some in Northern Illinois, but I'm not saying that should be even a decision factor, but there will likely be some blowback.
Yeah.
Well, I know that the Macon County Court is closed today because of COVID, and
Because of an internal outbreak, and they don't have any staff.
yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of. And I feel like if we can limit exposure, and I don't know.
Well, and that's why I just thought we needed to have a public discussion about it if we're going to make this decision, and that's what we're doing. So,
Carl, you've been quiet. Any thoughts?
I think it's definitely a concern. Obviously, like I said, I want to get the thoughts and considerations of the individual department heads, because obviously the individuals that would be working in the library every day and deal with the general public. So that's something of concern there. Though I'll definitely take the point Rick just made and heavy consideration in that there aren't any libraries currently as of right now that are closed, so to speak. And obviously it's be handled by a case by case basis to the capacity each library can handle. And as I think what Sophia or Susan alluded to, we have a very large library at that, and that we have some general capacity to still do some degree of services if that's drastically reduced. So I don't know, I'm kind of iffy yet, kind of iffy still. So haven't made
Again,
decisions.
playing a little bit of devil's advocate here, is the concern the staff? Because, one can make the argument, if you don't want to come, you don't have to come. So, is the argument, that, I mean, are we coming from a point of view that we want to protect the staff? Or what? I mean, if we're protecting the public, there's the argument that they don't want to come, they don't have to come here and be exposed. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I get that all the time from other people, so I'm exposing that.
The numbers are starting to go down a little bit. So we're already seeing people make that decision, But staff does have to come in. I mean, we can look at, we can change as I mentioned, we can change some of the staffing protocols, procedures. We can look at teams, and if you're not on the desk, you're out of the building. But that's challenging for, depending on the level of work you're doing, it's challenging to keep certain job descriptions. It's tough to find things for them to do from home.
If did we do before something like a voluntary thing? Did we ever try that or anything? If you want to come in, if you don't feel comfortable coming, I mean, I know a public facility is very hard to do that with, but I know businesses do that. If you feel more comfortable home, stay home.
We did when we were closed. We were still doing some work in the building, and we weren't. At the time, we were asking for volunteers. And actually, I think Robert, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but I think that Robert kind of framed it differently. Said he was looking for volunteers to stay home, and which is a good way to think about it. But yeah, we did have that when we were closed.
I don't know. I feel like we need to err on the side of caution. If our hospitals are full, that means that if you are exposed, you're facing an incredibly difficult situation. And I'd like to see us put the fewest number of people at risk, given, that in every discussion of the metrics, you can argue about the numbers, but the number that everybody agrees is when it's a full scale 5-alarm fire, is when there are no hospital beds. We're already at that point. I just, I don't want to get a book if that's endangering somebody. I mean, can we go to some sort of minimal services? Can we go back to something that's closer to our shutdown, but maybe with a few things offered? I don't know.
I'm going to place in the chat, Becky just sent me from Lake Villa District Library. They are a library that is moving the other direction. Let me see if I can get the whole thing in here. So, probably easier if I just share the screen. Let me do that. So they've kept their hours the same, but they're limiting the length of the visit to 1 hour. which, boy, that sounds like a nightmare to enforce.
Yeah, right?
Smaller library,
Yeah, yeah,
True.
smaller library, and they have security staff.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't see how you could do that.
Yeah, I don't think that one is.
I mean, there'd be
useful
people in the stacks you wouldn't find. Like,
But even though it's not necessarily a useful model for us, it does show that it's, you know, that some libraries are moving in the other direction right now. You know, we can,
So what happens if the governor shuts down our area because we're close to that? Does that mean the library has to close, or does that mean the library's still open?
okay, so that is where it gets weird. And libraries have never been mentioned in Restore Illinois. Okay, that is a feature, not a glitch. That is something that the state library and the Illinois Library Association lobbied for. So what we have done is the legal opinion that most of us are hearing is that units of local government decide what is an essential service for themselves. And the legal advice that most of us have been getting is that as a public library and a taxing body, we are a unit of local government and get to decide for ourselves. As we open back up, the model we're using, and it's not perfect, but it's the closest we could find, is the retail model. So we're following the retail guidelines as closely as we can. Those guidelines, if we move from phase 4 to phase 3, would change nothing for us. In fact, moving from phase 3 to phase 4 would change nothing for us except for gathering size. And we're not okay with gatherings of 50. We're still not, we're still not doing that. If we went to phase 3, the gathering size would go down to 25. We're already saying 25 is too big. So that's really, it wouldn't change a thing. Now, something may happen because well over 100 library directors in Illinois just signed an open letter to the director of the state library saying, we want some guidance for public libraries. We want some standardized guidance. And hopefully that we will see that. But we have all been doing this differently because there are no, unlike every other industry in Illinois, there are no guidelines for public libraries that have been published.
So in other words, we need to exercise our best judgment for the library and the community, given our numbers.
Correct.
Okay, I'll make a motion for starters that we close the building to all public access. Effective, now.
like the end of today.
Well, whatever. Shortly. That's my motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I would say that ideally there would be some kind of public access as far to services at least.
Well, services, that's what I was thinking, that the public couldn't come in the building, but that there would be services, I guess. Is that what you were thinking, Amy? That the building's closed, but that we still have telephone, remote, etc., curbside pickup?
Right. But that my motion covers the building so that we can agree, hopefully agree on that, and then move on to what services might be provided.
Sure.
Well, one service that can't be, well, we haven't found a way to provide if the library isn't open to the public is computer access. Now we can kind of mitigate in a little bit Wi-Fi access. We just got, is it 35, Robert? 35 new hotspots to circulate.
Exactly.
So we can you know, make a dent in that. But if you don't have the device, you know, a computer or a tablet or something, that is what we don't, that right now, we don't have the capability to provide to the public without at least some level of access to the building. That's the decision. That's the decision. I'm not, you know, but that's the one service we cannot provide. We can do curbside. We can do virtual programming. We can provide to those who have the ability. We can provide access to electronic books and films and music and et cetera, but we can't provide access to computers.
Right. I mean, I know that people need it right now. I mean, like they don't have work, like they're, you know, they may need it for benefits. I mean, I'm that I understand it's.
You have to, in order to you have to certify your unemployment benefits every so often, and you have to do that online.
Right.
Because there's no office in town.
I'm struggling a little. I'm just struggling a little bit with it. It's not that trust me, I'm one that's really been believing in lockdown and things, but I don't know.
I agree. I'm in kind of the same boat. Like I agree that it's to protect our staff and the public, you know, but I also agree with, you know, it's their choice whether to come or not. But at the same time, if they're coming and they're receiving it and they're spreading it to others and they have no, you know, and I'm not saying that, you know, we always want to do what other people are doing. It's just hard when you're the first. Like if you decide to close and no one else is, even though our numbers are higher than the first few months of COVID in general, like month to date.
Have we had any reported cases within staff or anything?
We rarely go a week without somebody having to quarantine for either symptoms or exposure, but nobody has tested positive, gratefully. You know, as an aside, we have had 2 retirees lose family members to coronavirus, but we have gratefully not had anyone test positive so far. It is sometimes we did get stricter on that. I want to say that you know, we were just kind of expecting everybody to self-monitor their symptoms before they came to work, and now we are twice a day doing. You've got to fill out a form, you know, reporting your symptoms, and if anybody reports a symptom, we send them home, and it is a 14-day quarantine, or you have to bring in 2 negative results that are at least 24 hours apart. So we've had people on quarantine all the time, but we haven't had anybody test positive, gratefully.
Well, I just know that there are some businesses, Indicator, restaurants and things that have closed temporarily already, but I think it's been because they've had employees test positive or there's been some exposure within the business. You know, I don't know if the intent is to reopen or when it is to reopen, but
and that's my understanding of what's going on in the circuit clerk's office. It's due to an internal outbreak too.
Yeah, that's what the paper said, at least.
Well, I just heard that the Country Club of Decatur just shut down. And I know that Southside shut down a week or 2 ago.
Like because of an outbreak or just because?
I don't know much about it. I just know that a friend of mine who also belongs there just texted me that her son's friends who work there were told not to come to work.
Division heads, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. Any comments at all about I mean, this is so hard, and I don't know.
I can speak for myself when I say I don't feel like I need to be protected from patrons. I expect that if we do get COVID, it's going to be transferred among staff ourselves. So by having us in the building, despite the building being closed to everybody else, I don't think that's going to protect us necessarily anymore. I've got a husband who's still working, who's being exposed to people who are being exposed to some people who do get tested positive. He hasn't had it yet. I have an older daughter who works. She's fine so far, and her place of business has been fine so far. And I have a daughter who attends classes on site at school every day that was closed down for 1 full week by their choice because of a teacher who tested positive. There are so many people who need to be here for services that we do provide. It feels wrong to me to close down a service that we have been shown to be essential by a state representative for our community, to shut down when restaurants are still open, bars are still open. And I fully expect that at some point somebody is going to test positive, in which case we will go to the Macon County Health Department and we'll probably be shut down for a period of time and then reopen. And especially if we are going to close the building to the public but still be here, that changes so much. That's hours and staffing and people who don't necessarily have enough to keep them busy. Scheduling people remotely and here, it opens up a whole new set of, it's hard getting to the point where we are now. And I do understand the hospitals are full. I do understand, but I don't, by the public library shutting down, I think it needs to be something higher level, shutting it all down to help that problem. That's just my opinion.
No, thank you. Thank you for that.
And my staff want to be here. When we were locked out, we wanted to be here. There are things that we can get done that we can do, but I don't think it protects us if we're still here. If that's what we're trying to do, is to protect us.
I think, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, we've been discussing this, going back and forward, you know, with it, when the numbers start going up, and I think we had a really good discussion today in division heads about it. And I think I know a lot of us feel like Alyssa feels, that we are essential to the community. And, you know, the decision that if we will, you know, become a spreader place or not, it's a hard decision to make. It's a hard decision to make, you know, who are you going to keep safe? But I think just the blanket, shut the building, maybe that could be, you know, an amended motion where maybe there's some services offered, or, you know, some part of the building offered, or even if that's the way that has to go, or even reduced hours or something like that to maybe just control the flow that comes in. I think there's still some things, you know, other places do, like temperature taking. I know that's not that effective, but I think there's still some options that we can look at, you know, before this is just my opinion, you know, before we say a blanket close. But, you know, again, that's a guess. That's just me thinking about it, you know, and this may be the thing that we need to do. So those are my thoughts on it. I know everyone that's here that I know that I work with every day from top to bottom, they all want to be here. So
I think at one point we discussed possible, you know, and when we were talking about this the other day, doing things like computer by appointment, only having so many computers open, you have an hour at the computer, you can, you know, make an appointment to be there. Just that would kind of control the flow of the building, closing the stacks so that people weren't walking around the building as much, and getting rid of the chairs.
Yeah, we had talked about some of the ways that we would basically still provide service in the building services, but just restrict them a little bit more, and or even, I mean, because I mean, for me, the computer access is just such a huge thing. And we even talked about, like, I mean, and Matt, I think Matt's on vacation still. So, but like moving some of the computers even further away, and because it's an aerosol, it's an aerosol virus, having time limits in between the times that people can access the computer. So like 15 minutes or, whatever in between each patron using the computers. I mean, I don't know.
That one, I think the only way we could really effectively do it is to go by
Right.
appointment, because it's self-serve.
Right.
And even if we put a timer on it and said, nobody can access this computer for 15 minutes, somebody might just sit there and wait for that 15
Right.
minutes to pass, which it would effectively negate what we're trying to do. If we want to have time in between use at each station, we would have to do that by appointment, I would think. And the other possibility is, I think fraught with potential problems, but maybe we look at circulating some tablets or something like that. That could be.
Well, but if you don't have access.
I'm
I can't
sorry.
really hear you.
I'm sorry.
If you don't have internet access.
Yeah, but if you circulate it with the hotspot, then you've got it.
I mean, I threw that motion out to focus our discussion. I mean, I'm, certainly hear what Alyssa's saying about, and Robert are saying about how crucial our services are. What about, cutting back our hours, removing the chairs, computers by appointment? Does that help? Does that help?
I guess for me, the thing that I like about having the hours stay the same is that it gives you a longer period of time for people to come in individually, as opposed to people coming in clumps because we've shortened our hours.
That's true.
But I think the rest of what you said, other than the hours, I agree with.
I
And
think it would be important to pull back to where we were with shorter hours on the computers, to go back to the grab and go language. We don't want you to stay, to take the chairs off the floors, to encourage people to come and get what you want and go. But we have to make that, we have to vocalize that, make sure everybody knows it. And when we see people lingering, and I agree that maybe we need to enforce the masks.
one of the things we talked about, one of the options we talked about in division heads meeting this morning was whatever change we make, if we're still allowing people in the building, one of those changes needs to be, we need to have somebody at the door and explaining to people when they come in, this is what to expect today. You've got to have a mask on. We've got one for you if you don't have one. If you don't have a mask, we're happy to give you curbside service. You're going to have to keep your distance from, if you come in with your family, you don't have to keep your distance from them, but you have to keep your distance from others. And tell them what they can and cannot do, and explain the why. We don't need to convince anybody that what we're doing is going to help them, or what we're doing is right, or it's for their own good, or anything like that. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So that particular person, are they approaching people that are not wearing masks, or are they just, because if someone's going to greet me at the door, even though I've been there every week since you guys open back up, I'm going to be like, I already know this.
Right. But yeah, I think both things are important. So we talked also about how the different comfort levels of enforcing that, and we're not going to, so there's going to be varying comfort levels of enforcing it. And then there are going to be people who are very comfortable, but we don't want enforcing it. You might go to, be too forceful, or people that are comfortable, but not good, just not forceful enough. So we're going to have to decide who's going to do that. We're going to have to get not necessarily a script, but some sort of some sort of protocol and some sort of guidelines and decide how we're going to do it. We have to ensure that it's enforced equitably
Absolutely.
and fairly. And, you know, here's, you know, I'll share this with you because you trustees have no way of knowing this. Other libraries in the area, and in fact, every other library I've talked to in Illinois is enforcing the at least they're telling me that they're enforcing the mask mandate. We have people who refuse to wear a mask who come here because Mount Zion won't let them in, or because Barclay won't let them in. I mean, they've told us this. And I think that makes, you know, some staff probably don't care about it. Some staff are uncomfortable by it, but, you know, kind of the guidance that we got from the board early on was we want to do the soft enforcement. And so that's what we've done. And I understand why. I mean, we don't want to get into a situation where you know, people are taking a swing at anybody, but I mean, I think there's probably a way to do it effectively and fairly. And I think that might make a big difference. But you know, and another option that you guys have is that you could take these services one at a time and say, here's how we'd like to go with the service.
I think that would be the easiest, the best way to do it is just go down the list of services and decide, like seating, we already know, no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just go down the list and say, you know, computers, 1 hour by appointment.
So the motion would be amended to the building would continue to be open, but services will be reduced by the list that we're going to discuss. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yes.
Carl, how you feeling?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I would definitely case by case basis of individual services that we offer, so that it's as safe as possible, but still offering as much to the community as we can.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I mean, we can just move down the list, Rick, if you want to like type next to it, or
let's do it. So right now we're at full access to the stacks. Limited access would have a lot of challenges, and we need a couple of days to work out how we would do that.
I would just leave it at full if people are not going to be staying in the building.
Yeah.
Thank you, because we are so big that there's plenty of room for people. The problem is the tables within the stacks with extra chairs.
Yeah, I would say no chairs,
Yeah.
like gone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's different. That's down here.
Okay, so programs.
I would say we're gonna. What programs are we? Oh, you said Real Talk on Race.
Samantha, do you want to? You just have a consensus and then vote on all of these at once, or how do you want to?
Yes.
Okay, so this one remains the same.
Yes.
Okay, programs. Right now we're having a few with limited number of attendees.
I would say go to virtual, and that's Real Talk on Race, right?
Well, it's but we've also had some book groups that have met in person, haven't we?
One.
Yeah, one, and it's been very few, but
We had the census,
Yes.
that's over. So
right? I would be okay with virtual only.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say virtual only for meetings as well. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
the friends need to go back to virtual.
oh, and also I'll complicate matters. Are we going to include our tenants in this, because we do have tenants that are holding classes.
I don't
Workforce.
think we can't.
No, I'd say no. The tenants just need to stay in their own space, and
And that's what they do. So
yeah, as long as they're in their own space.
Yeah, and once their their students come into the building, that those are our rules for, in our part of the building, I mean.
Yep.
Okay. So number of public access computers.
Yeah,
I
we
think
haven't-
we're in a sweet spot right now with the 10 that we have.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
But I missed that.
I think the number of computers that we have right now are not too many and not too little. We have not turned the computers on in the children's section, only downstairs, and it's been working.
Okay.
As far as having enough,
How
We've had-
far?
We've had
Phase.
a couple of instances of waiting lists, but not in the last few weeks. I don't.
Are they spaced pretty far apart? I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
certainly from right to left, and there is 6 feet in between, front to back. And there's more than that in the other direction.
I would say talk to Matt and see if there's any way. I mean, I know that would be a massive undertaking, but if we can move the computers even a little bit further apart.
And then would we want to do it by appointment only? That way we could control who's in there and how many people? That would be on time on computers.
I would say 1 hour, like
But would we want people to make an appointment? And if there's a space available, they can make an appointment right then and there. I mean.
I'm not a fan of appointments. If you come here at the time you need to be here and you have to wait, and because we haven't had any waiting.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I agree with that. 1 hour limit.
Mhm.
I would say 1, yeah.
With the caveat that we can give them extra time in order to finish.
I would say that would be up to the discretion of the people that are working in the library.
And that's the
But
way.
if you keep
what we
the
work
time
with.
limit there, that will just, in people's minds, say to them, need to get what I need done and out of here.
Right.
Our patrons are accustomed to getting 15 to 20 minutes extra in order to complete a resume or a job application or something important.
Yeah, I agree. That's fine. Curbside, I would say if you can, I mean, why not try to offer it?
At all times.
We can. It would take some work. I think I'd like to do it in steps, and rather than going from where we are now to available the whole time we're open, which, there might be some security risks.
I still haven't tried it because I like coming inside and seeing you guys.
But I think we can certainly move towards expanding that.
Yeah.
The hours, because, and maybe we get some more usage of it. So we can work toward expanding, and with the goal, I would think of Monday through Friday, at least Monday through Friday, and
Right.
more than a few hours a day. So
I just know that more and more people are taking advantage of like the curbside pickup at Target, at Walmart, at Kroger, at all those places. And so if we could expand our hours for curbside availability, that would also limit, contact as well in the building.
we can. The one
And even if, sorry.
the one I'm more skeptical about is going to assisted by telephone staff. And why I'm skeptical about it, I put that on there as if we're going to close the doors, then yeah, that would give our that's more work for people that are in here to do. But that could be an extremely time consuming. If somebody wants to search a bunch of items and order them, that could take a long time on the telephone. So,
Well, you just need self-serve online, like they can use the app.
yeah.
Okay. So I think just
Either way.
promote.
Okay, so
Yeah,
here I'm
yeah,
just going to throw this out there. What if there's an older person who doesn't use technology and would really like to get some books out? I mean, are you guys going to make exceptions for that kind of situation?
It's a great question. And have we so far, Robert? We've talked about it, but I don't know if we've actually made an exception.
Yes, we've made exceptions. I mean, of course, we're not going to say no. If they, if there's an older person who says, well, I don't have a computer, or, I haven't plugged that thing in for 4 years or whatever. Yeah, we're going to,
I would like, if we're talking about wanting to assist our patrons, I
Right.
mean, that's a way to, and also to keep people, safe out of the building, out of contact if they don't
That's
feel
actually
comfortable.
something somebody could do from home too. So let's have it. We won't be able to implement that right away, but we can certainly work towards that. If
it's definitely unofficial now, so basically they're supposed to do it themselves, but we help out.
So also, if we want to start like telling people about it, like when they come and pick up their books or something, like just at least selling it a little bit. I don't know. I mean, like people, I know that there's signs and everything, but like even just the app, like there's an app for that. I would say we can't, we won't know the amount of patrons that are in the building. I would say let's keep it where it is. I mean, if we see a lot of people though, but I don't know.
we
Or
counted,
just moderate stuff.
we counted the first few days and we never came close to, it's 5 people per square per 100. I don't know. I can't remember what it is, but it for us, it games out to about 300 people in the building. And we never came close to it. So we stopped counting.
Right. I mean, if we're going to have somebody kind of greeting people, but at the same time, like other places are not doing that. Like Kroger's not doing that.
Yeah, well, phase 4, the limits are really high.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So seating, back up to seating, no seating.
No seating.
No seating.
No seating.
All right, Becky, local history.
So here's the thing, guys. If we're looking at making sure people don't linger, that's all they do in local history is linger.
Right.
We have people that come in, they'll spend all 4 hours that we're open in there on the computers. So what we know Springfield is doing at their public library is, and they've been doing it since they opened, is they've been doing appointment only.
Yeah, I love.
I like the idea of appointment only, and then Becky, you can control what's happening in that room.
Right.
Well,
and then that also, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
That also, that would probably be volunteers. Let's send them back home. And it'd be Leanne and I just running it when somebody needs to come in.
That sounds good.
Yep.
That'll take a little bit to get to. We won't be able to implement that tomorrow.
Right.
We're gonna. Tomorrow we'll have to work on a lot of messaging anyway. But
I can start it Monday with no volunteers.
We just want to protect people, period.
Yeah, I'm very worried about them because most of them are very old, are much older,
Mm-hmm.
And not all of them are in the greatest of health. So,
Right. Absolutely. Okay, online catalog stations.
I would say that we probably want to keep all 8 then.
Yeah,
We're going to allow people to walk around the stacks or open all of them, whatever, all stations open or 8, whatever.
yeah,
We've chosen to have limited. We've chosen already to be limited in that we have full sight on the ones that are being used.
I like that. Full sight on the ones that are being used.
Yep. Okay. Hours we would keep the same and days.
Mm-hmm.
Still going to be open Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gives them more time to space out their visits.
Okay.
I mean, I don't understand the concept of one day, one day off, one day on. But I mean, the logic hasn't made sense to me. Like, if you're going to be there, you might as well just be there.
Mhm.
So we're looking at regular staffing patterns.
Well, are there people whose jobs could be done remotely? Is there some set of staff that could be remote?
There are some set of staff that can do some of their work remotely, and probably a few that could completely. We do have one staff that is on 100% remote still. We have another staff that is about 90% remote. And those are for health reasons. And there are some we can look at on a case-by-case basis, or we could just simply have more time at home.
If I may, we have been, when somebody asks to work remotely for a period of time, provided that staffing levels allow it, I generally agree to it. There are a couple of staff who take advantage of that. That being said, if we go to a different kind of staffing level and we do have somebody that has to be sent home, it's very hard to bring somebody here quickly to cover that.
Right.
When they're planning on working remotely is my only concern. I'm willing to try if that's what we want.
I would say if it is possible for people to work from home that maybe don't work with the public directly, like if you're not working on the desk, I mean, just see how it works if they can work remotely. I mean, because I don't want you guys to feel like you're just overwhelmed because there isn't enough staffing. Because that puts more stress on the people that are there.
Yeah, I would say regular staffing, and then on a case-by-case basis, if something needs to change, which is just what normally would happen.
Yeah, just review and just see what's possible.
And I would say no soft enforcement. You have to wear a mask. You can't be in the door otherwise.
Yeah, I would agree.
The other thing about that I wanted to throw out, and I'm sorry Greg's not here, but I'd be happy to give him a call tomorrow, is if we get to the point where we think that this is causing a safety issue, a non-COVID safety issue. In other words, we get a lot of angry patrons. He had indicated to me, and I think Deputy City Manager John Kinseth also said something similar, that pretty good chance that we could get security personnel and the Illinois the local CARES grant would reimburse us for that. City has $3.5 million in that CARES grant, and we've only got about 20 so far, 25 or 30,000 of it. But actually, we just spent 10 more thousand. But if that is the case, it may be a very good idea to invest in it.
I love the idea of that. I mean, I think that would be great to have somebody that's, and just the presence of the security person might just make people take it more seriously. Because I know that, like, at Farm and Fleet, when they had somebody at the door, it wasn't even a security person. Everybody was wearing a mask in the store. And then they took away the person at the door. Now nobody, half the people aren't.
Right. I mean, you see on, TikTok and Twitter and all of these different, videos of people and getting kicked out and screaming and all of that. But I mean, I think that's pretty rare. I think most people, they may not like it. They may turn around and leave, but I don't think they make a big issue. But I'm all for having a security presence there anyway, just to diffuse any situation right offhand.
Yeah, I don't want to make it a big deal, just like to diffuse it, or just to send a statement, like,
Right.
Put on your mask.
Right.
Obviously, if we can get somebody else to pay for it, that's perfect.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sanitizing protocols, you know, some of it is a city's department, and I can send you those protocols, those written protocols. But some of it is things we do on our own. And you guys, Carl's telling me he may need to go. So do you guys want to take a vote? Carl, do you have time to take a vote?
Yes, sir.
He's telling me he's in favor, but I think you still need a,
Yes, sir.
We need him, yeah, we do need a voice vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to keep the building open to the public with the consensus of the,
On column E,
I'm sorry?
on column E,
Yes, the sorry, the services that we discussed, and the other couple that we were in the process of discussing. So that would be the motion. Sorry, I've just got bombarded by a little 2-year-old. So is that the motion? Does that even make sense?
yes.
Okay. All right. So we will do roll call. So Sophia,
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
All right. Susan,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
and Samantha. Yes. Okay. So then we would just discuss the last two, because I mean, basically the meeting would be closed, or we can't do anything else at this point. So.
Yeah, and we can look at those and what do you guys think about self-check machines? Leave them or close them down? I mean, I personally think they help us avoid face-to-face action and are a good thing. You're much less likely to get it off of a hard surface than you are from a face.
I say leave it
I say
open.
leave it. Yep.
And
I
we'll,
agree that it's,
and we'll work with Civic Center staff to step up the cleaning protocols.
Okay.
And I'll send you those protocols if I can dig them up.
Okay. So I think that, so does anybody have any other comments or questions or issues or anything?
Go team.
I think this is a good step to take because it's not drastic. It pulls us back a little bit, and it keeps us mindful that we do have services to provide. So, I mean, we can always retract more if things get more dire.
Mhm.
But I think this is a really good first step. And I also know that a good chunk of staff want to be here.
Yeah.
And I have not heard anyone say they feel fearful or, that they're unwilling to be here. So I think you guys have made a really good decision.
I would, encourage everyone to be aware of a fast changing situation and that we may have to have this discussion again in a week or 2 weeks.
Yep.
Right.
That's
And all we can
the
do.
thing about exponential curves. They get
Yeah.
out of hand really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
I'll
Susan-
second.
All right. So Sophia,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
and Samantha. Yes. All right. It's adjourned at 5:40.